Alright guys, what's good? So today we're going to just be doing a quick rundown of some basic concepts so you guys have some context for future videos and for my past videos, and even if you want to go and do some other things, try and do this on your own for fun, or even seriously, it doesn't matter. So first, let's look at the different kinds of audio tracks. So first we have buses, aux, sends. They're all the same thing, they just have different names, and this will instantly make sense of what you're looking at. So all the blue tracks go to the instrument bus. All the layers go to the layer bus. All of these different drum sounds go to the drums, and then, for example, all of the green ones are the low end, and so on and so forth. So everything is just grouped basically, um, and all of that really does, it has two main uses. So one, say I want an effect on all of these blue tracks, I could put the effect on the instrument bus, and that gives me control over all of these tracks and also saves computer space. Or remember, to the other name send, I can send a copy of, for example, this instrument bus to this reverb effect, and then that way I can have what the unprocessed signal, which is referred to as dry, the dry signal, versus the affected signal, which is called wet. So I have them side by side, and I can mix them together for a more unique sound, as opposed to only being able to control the effect and turn it on and turn it off, or having it on each individual track and having to copy the settings and the effect over and over again, because either of those other ways is going to use up a lot more resources, and we do not want that. You always want your computer to be running as smooth as possible when you're making beats and producing music and stuff like that. Next is the master. So the master is what you're hearing out of your headphones, what you're hearing out of your speakers. It's all of the sounds going into that one channel, and this is where you export. So for example, say I didn't have my instrument bus going to the master channel. When I export it, all of these sounds, I wouldn't hear them. So that's what's so important about the master channel. Everything that's in the master channel is what's going to be exported. Next, you have audio. Audio is very self-explanatory. That is what you record. So let me just pull up some audio so we can all see it, get an idea. Nope, wrong button. I'll just search it. Yeah. So audio. This is an audio clip, audio track. So with audio, it's as is. There's nothing you can really change about it, other than you can add effects to it, and that's it. You can put effects on it, but you can't change how this sounds, or you can't change how this hits, aside from using effects. MIDI, however, so let's look up some MIDI. MIDI, or actually instead of here, we'll go here. MIDI has its different properties in the fact that it has no sound on its own, and you can control it. So for example, I can put this pattern down and it'll sound one way, and then if I want to put a different instrument on it, it'll play this same rhythm, but it'll sound like that instrument. And then if, say, I'm working with another producer, say I send this to them and they have a different sound, they can put a different sound on, or if they're adding to the beat that we're making together and they want to just move this up here or add another one, they can do that, and it'll be completely fine. And because we're working with just a file, you can have copies of this. So say you have something like this probably sounds really bad, but something that's really, really complex, you can go and you can save a copy, and then maybe say you want to delete something like this and then add something else, and you'll have a different copy of it, and you can go back and forth and maybe see, like, what do you like better. So that's why MIDI is really cool. But again, remember, on its own, it makes no sound, and it can be changed pretty much however you want. There's no limits, and it works. Other than that, it works just like audio tracks. You can put effects on it. I can route it to a send or a bus or a group or or an aux. I know all those names, but I mainly, to keep it simple, I mainly call them aux tracks or bus. Um, so that way, that's kind of out of the way. You kind of know those different audio tracks. And then finally, what we're going to go over is just the different windows and how I use them. So I mainly, when I make a beat, I start in the piano roll. So what I'm doing is I'm putting in my MIDI to sound how I want it to sound. And I try to get all of my different instruments to be complete. I want every step of the way, I want it to sound as finished as possible. So I want to be able to shake my head to it, to freestyle on it, to vibe, to dance as I'm making my different sounds. So I'm making my loop. This is all the instruments playing at once, repeating over and over again. That's what this is setting up. And what corresponds to this window is the channel rack. So in the channel rack, I have all of my different sounds. The reason this looks like this is because this is my template, which I definitely can go more detail over. But in my template, what I'll have is all of my different instruments, and in the channel rack, I'll go and I'll place down different sounds to be more on key, on rhythm. And a big example of who does this is Metro Boomin. Metro Boomin, like, since he makes trap beats, really computerized, digital kind of beats, it's always like 1, 2, 3, 4, like always on beat, on rhythm. Not always, but for the most part, because you're just using a computer, you're not actually playing something. It's always on beat for the most part. So that's really why this is good, because it's a good visual representation of that, as opposed to looking at the piano roll where, unless you kind of really know what you're doing, it's hard to tell like what's on beat and what's not on beat. With the channel rack, you can kind of put it there, play it. If it doesn't work, you can kind of, the more you do it, you can tell like something like this would sound good, whereas something like this won't sound good. You know, like it's all about repetition. But the channel rack generally is easier to get a view of what's on beat and what's not on beat. And so the way I usually use it is my pianos, my guitars, and things like that. I'll use the piano roll. I'll use this, and I'll draw in a pattern, and then I'll come back to the channel rack. And the channel rack is where I'll do my drums. I'll do my kick. I'll do my snares and things like that. And then another thing about the channel rack is this is where I can change the instruments that I have. So for example, say I put a pattern here. I put down this pattern or whatever, and again, it's MIDI. So you'll see no sound is being made, only sound from here. But if I just mute this, there's no sound being played. But if I add something to it, let's say, come on, I'll do this. And actually, I know you guys can't hear it because I started a new project, silly me. So what I'll do is this and this, so I can hear it. And now you'll see. You can hear it, but then again, if I was to get rid of this, nothing. And that's how MIDI works. That's a live example of MIDI. But back to the window. So like I said, I'll start with my instruments, and then I'll go onto my drums and make some rhythm with my drums. And then once, like I said, I'm forward thinking, I'm trying to get something that sounds complete, that I can rap over, I can dance, shake my head to, I move on to the mixer, where I'm trying to make it even more interesting. I'm adding effects, I'm turning things up, turning things down. I'm using these knobs right here to either put it to the left side of your headphones, the right side of your headphones, or directly in the middle, so I can make space for the vocal, for the rap artist, because the vocals are always in the middle, with the exception of your background vocals. Background vocals can either be to the left or to the right. Sometimes it's a little bit of both. So that's the third step for me. The final step is to come into the playlist, where I'm trying to build things out. So I'll have all of my different sounds, for example. I'll have all of these, and I'm trying to actually make a beat. So say I want to have like a build up into a drop into like a verse or something like that. That's what I'm doing with that. And finally, once I get obviously it's not that fast, it takes more time. Is sometimes it's even, I can come here, I can come to the playlist and still be making changes in the mixer, or even still changing instruments here in the channel rack, or rare occasion, like I like to try and really get it done, but sometimes I'll even come back to the piano roll, because once I separate all the sounds, they're not playing together, I'm essentially having something completely different. So maybe I find that I have to change the sound up, or I have to make a copy, because like working with MIDI, I can do this. I can make a copy of that same pattern and just change one or two notes, and then that'll make the beat sound a lot more alive, a lot more unique. So it's really using these windows interchangeably. And again, the name's the piano roll, the channel rack, the playlist, and the mixer. So those are the main windows, and that corresponds to the different tracks that I use. Remember, we have master, we have our aux, we have audio, and we have MIDI. And remember, MIDI, no sound on its own, ones and zeros. It has to be told what to do. Audio is very straightforward. What's recorded is what you get. All you can do is really change the volume and change the effects, but you can't change the actual pattern the orientation of the sound. So like I said, very quick, very straight to the point rundown. If you guys have enjoyed, please like, comment, subscribe. I'll definitely do the same thing with Pro Tools, where I'll use more of the same terminology, but we're gonna be talking about, instead of making beats, more like recording songs and mixing and editing songs. That's what I use Pro Tools for. But you can use any of these programs to do all the different things, whether you want to edit, whether you want to record or make a beat. It just depends on what you're comfortable with. And for me, FL Studio is home for making beats. So that's why I decided to make this video. And I know this is what you guys are going to be seeing most of on this channel. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, we all kind of were on the same page. But a few likes, I'll definitely do the same thing with Pro Tools. I'll even go more in depth. If you guys have any questions, comment them below. We can go back and forth. We can get to the bottom of it. I want to make sure you guys understand, because I know how crazy this stuff looks, and I would hate for you guys to be watching these videos and not have any context. So that was really my thought process. I'm doing this for you guys, so really hope you enjoyed, and yeah, peace.